Hey, I had thoughts in mind and it all just short circuited. All right, I'm doing my next check in. I said I would try not to disappear this time around while dealing with suicidal state, so I'm still here. I guess that's the main point. Fuck. I had things in mind from comments and correspondence to respond to earlier. It all just, I set this to go live and tried to pull myself together a bit better. And I was going to say it didn't work, but I mean, I'm not fucking freaking out right now. Everything I had in mind short circuited, but hey, Nerdy Bird, good to see you're here still too. So for the record, Nerdy Bird understands a lot of what I'm going through, and there's two of us here dealing with active suicidal states and not giving into it. Part of the basic idea of not disappearing this time was that reporting on a suicide increases the odds of a suicide. People have commented or written to me privately that me showing myself publicly in a suicidal state and committing to going forward made them feel less alone in their suicidal state. So I was thinking that the closest thing to the opposite of a report of a suicide is the report of I am actively suicidal and I'm not giving up. So I'm fucking here to say that. Hey Carlo, how you doing? Yesterday wasn't quite as bad as the few days before. I spent parts of yesterday not suicidal. There were parts of yesterday where I got it down to just extreme depression. But not for that long. And it fucking hurts when it swings back in. When you get yourself just to that pathetic, ultra depressed state. But at least there's nothing in you fucking crying out to die. Then some thought triggers it. I observed it yesterday. It was always a thought of outside circumstance that triggered the suicidal back in. The times when I was just extremely depressed. Or when I was down to just a now moment. When it's just that pain and my consciousness and a present moment without people around, either alone or with a squirrel on my shoulder or a chipmunk right in front of me. Then there's a few outside circumstances that I'm dealing with that I don't want to talk about. But the thought of any one of them would just trigger that. Anything from mild to moderate to strong suicidal voice. Just wanting out so fucking bad. No, I'm fucking glad you're fine, Carlo. Carlo wrote, I'm fine. I feel guilty to be fine when others are going through tough times. No one hold back writing that you're doing fucking great. It's nice to hear the balance of that. No one anyone who wants to write however the fuck they're feeling, write however the fuck you're feeling, and that's fine. If you're also suicidal or even just depressed and struggling, we'll connect over that. And if you're doing good, then we'll connect. Then those of us who aren't doing good will think like, well, fucking thank Christ somebody's doing well. So, hey, Nolan. Hey, Daniel. I hope you're both doing well. Yeah, I'm not my thoughts. Good point, Daniel. Daniel writes, at least you know you're not your thoughts. Yeah, I had never heard of mindfulness when I learned it. I discovered mindfulness when I was in isolation. And didn't have an internet connection, It was talking to my imaginary friends and examining myself and trying to survive being extremely insane taught me mindfulness. I discovered the term years later. The awareness that I am not and not even like, not the awareness in the sun. Oh, fuck. How do I explain this? The understanding, but not in the sense of I heard that and I understand it intellectually. Understanding mindfulness the way you understand how to ride a bike or you understand how to swim is the only thing that's gotten me through. Memory comes to mind. It was either late winter, early spring this year, or it was late winter, early spring last year. Can't remember which. I can remember there was a person here in my house. We were discussing an outside problem, and it could have been this year, it could have been the year before, because it's an outside circumstance that has existed for a couple years. So I can't place where this memory's, like which year it is. I can see the time of year it was. And I hit an extreme suicidal state, one that I have not hit during this suicidal period. If I didn't know there was that level, I would think I've been extremely suicidally depressed recently. Fuck. I can remember it being worse. But I remember this situation where trying to hold myself together through mild suicidal state and extreme depression, and trying to talk to this person about dealing with something. I mean, since that outside circumstance still exists, whether it's 6 months later or a year and 6 months later, obviously, the conversation about how to deal with it wasn't going well. And the extreme suicidal state took over for a couple minutes. And the first thing it did, tried to calm the fuck down. Stopped arguing, stopped expressing, being very upset, and just tried to calm down and say, yep, okay, and get that person out of the house quickly so I could kill myself. When they left, I actually got up and started walking. And even though my preferred method when I daydream about it would be rope, I've always realized that in an emergency, it's sharp objects that are around the most. But I was up and moving towards a sharp object. And my mindfulness kicked in, and the part of me that's trying to speak now, like just for a minute or two, this part slipped and the other part had like just taken over. When my mindfulness kicked in and I realized like that I was letting this part run the show, everything else had gone quiet. I just fucking froze in place. And I don't know how long I just stood there. Like frozen, literally, as if time stopped, like mid-step. And I wrestled back control of the body from the suicidal part, which was just still extreme. It was just roaring inside of me for escape. I just stood frozen for however many minutes it took for me to get control over the body. And then I walked it back over here and sat down here and dealt with the extreme suicidal state. But it is years and years of what I now see as a form of mindfulness training that it took ahead of time for that to be able to kick in like that. I've also noticed some other things, like yesterday and today I've been past the extremely weepy kind of suicidal feeling. I'm not just fucking breaking down crying all the time. The other internal reaction to that is to want to blame and hate. And so I've done so many years of meditation on agapic love and forgiveness and that shit. I think me and Dr. Amate got into it pretty well on a podcast once. It kicks in automatically after years of trying to learn that thing. And I mean, it doesn't kick in the sense that I can feel the forgiveness and the hate just instantly washes away or whatever, but it's that thought or emotion floods me, and I'm mindful that it's flooding me. And there's a real temptation to the dark side. Like if I decided to flip some of my axioms and go with blame and hatred, it would soothe some of the hurt in a fucked up way. But it's like my mindfulness kicks in automatically in the years of trying to push myself to seeing things the different way. It's like I can't be fooled by the inner demons anymore. That's the right thing to do. It feels good in the short term and makes things worse. It's like taking heroin or smoking crack to deal with your problem. But if it wasn't for the year, and there were stages earlier on where I would fluctuate. I mean, like years ago, earlier on, not as in this depression cycle. Fuck. But anyway, when suicidal, I would end up with these debates inside going on. You know, part of me really arguing that no, I need to blame here, and this isn't right. The world needs to change these things. But it builds up after years and starts becoming automatic, even in suicidal states. It's fucking weird. Hey, Thiago, I appreciate the prayers and good thoughts. From Brazil, interesting. I don't know if anyone from Brazil's ever prayed for me before. Thank you very much. Lots of love. How are you doing today? How's life in Brazil? Love you too. 2 more V's. Anne Smith, I have not heard from you in quite a while. I was going to say I hope you're doing well, but I see that the first thing you wrote is you're scared. All right. Our old friend Anne says, I'm scared. My stepdaughter's suicidal. She's coming over for company. I'm worried. That is a reasonable thing to be scared and worried about. Love your daughter. Love doesn't always feel good. Love isn't just a fuzzy, warm emotion. Love is this immensely powerful thing that hurts a lot when someone we love is hurt or in danger. How old's your stepdaughter? Daniel says, Tu vas aller mieux, Merc. I'll get better. I might. I also can't try to make myself believe stupid. Sorry, I don't mean to say stupid. To believe things like it will get better. It might get better. It might get worse. Longest suicidal states I've experienced are like, say, probably a year to a year and a half in a depression that is 2 years long. I could try to say, hey, but you always come out of it, even if it was a year and a half of depression. But I'm going to die eventually. Logically, rationally. I may encounter a point in life where from that point forward, things just keep getting worse. And then my participation in this 3-dimensional meat suit world ends. But so far, it's always gotten better. And it might get better. It might, maybe it's even probably. All right. So Nolan was feeling sick, which I knew, but maybe everyone else didn't. But is doing good now. I'm glad to hear that. Carlos says, I remember when I was depressed and can relate. Only people who had depression understood me. Yeah. Okay. Rishab. I hope I'm not too far behind. I don't think I am. Rishab, if you're not new, I'm sorry. I'm depressed. I'm not thinking clearly, but I believe you're new. You say, I'm suicidal. Haven't brushed my teeth in 1 week. Haven't bathed either. I'm planning to have my first whiskey peg tomorrow. I'm tired of this pain. I don't know what a whiskey peg is. And you say you're sure you'll make it through. It's just a phase. Okay, I'm glad you're aware you'll make it through. Because some people who are suicidal, especially if you're fucking suicidal for the first time. Yeah, when you're suicidal for the first time, you do not know there is a way through. And it does not seem like there's a way through. Even after you've been through it once or twice. Yeah, you can go through it a few times where it seems impossible to get through, even though you could say that you remember getting through it before. So I'm glad you know that it can be gotten through. I guess that's one fucking thing that if anyone's coming across this and you're suicidal and it's early on and you're overwhelmed and you just feel like you cannot go on, it is impossible to survive this. I understand that state. I still enter it where the feeling is this is impossible to survive. I've been pushed past my limit repeatedly in suicidal states. And I have had moments where I'm like, this isn't survivable. This isn't endurable. This isn't tolerable. I don't even know how I am experiencing this much pain right now. I don't like, it seems like I cannot exist like this, yet I seem to be. I still enter that. I've been dealing with this shit for 15 years now. So I can remember that even when I can't see that it's survivable, that I remember the legends that it is. The internal legends among my subpersonalities. Fuck. No, that's... I need a minute. Some of the parts of the system that are tasked with fucking processing all this pain just really flared up and wanted to take over. I use the metaphor in my mind of having an internal throne room. Within myself. I use the image of a throne. Whoever's running the body is the one sitting on the throne. But whoever's influencing are like, there's a level of the throne room like where people stand back and are observing, and there's the area like up the steps, the area with like around the throne. If subpersonalities are up there, that's like when they're flooding the system, like they're affecting the system even if they're not on the throne. They just really acted up and tried to take over. And I'm not sure if I was going to start crying or yelling. I just don't have it in me to fucking do that in public today. Even focusing on positives is so fucking dangerous when you're suicidal. Minutes before going live, I did get some good news relating to one of the problems. I've got 4 or 5, maybe even a couple more, like outside circumstances that are making life, or that are making my experience of the world difficult. I got possibly a good sign on one of them right before coming on, but makes me think of someone else I know in the 3-dimensional world that came to me recently, like since I've been suicidal. And I've done that whole locking everything back to help that person. It was funny, they quoted a TV show the day after, or it was the day of. Either it was the day I had seen the episode or the day after. I think it was the day after. This person has said it to me more than once. It's the hope that kills you. As we've been talking through what's going on with them. Which is from Ted Lasso. So I don't even necessarily recommend. I'm not sure if I like that show or not. But I was watching it recently, and I saw the episode where at the one pub, that's their motto, is it's the hope that kills you. That's what's thorny about tentative good news. Or good news at all. Because when you're depressed, you see how fucking it can just be the universe promising Charlie Brown that it's not going to pull the football away again. And like when I look back on the past year, different issue than the one I was just talking about. One of the other issues, there were a couple times where there was good news. Then the fucking football got pulled away. It's like, what the fuck about what was just beginning to happen or supposed to happen, you know? Fuck. So this becomes something where it's paralogical. There's a complete truth in that. It's the hope that kills you. And some of the philosophy that you can imagine around that if you take that seriously. And then there's a complete truth in the only thing that can get you through is hope. Like that opposite. Ted putting up his fucking believe signs. One of those things where they're both fucking true. Just like the whole free will thing, but I won't derail on that first. The way I deal with that is short term, don't get your fucking hopes up. Seems to me apply that it's that hope that kills you to short term things and things where you're actually relying on outcome. Maintain infinite hope in the long run. As far as I can experience the complete truth, like for the tangent, Sam Harris's point on free will is fucking bulletproof. And again, it's not something like I can observe in myself. Where the fuck is the free will? The universe is happening. This is a record with a needle moving through the grooves. But I also think there's something to there's some mysterious, like, what is will in the universe? And it becomes mystical and fucking ephemeral. But the way, again, I work with that is what I found most useful is when I look at the past, I examine the past as no free will. Because if you look from this point, at least, we don't have free will to change the past. But when I look at the past, I look at everything like nobody had a choice, like that Sam Harris style, which can lead into the judge not lest ye be judged, and there but for the fucking grace of God go I. Then in the present moment, when I'm looking forward, I plan as though I have some limited free will. I consider free will in making plans in the future, and I try to use my will to make things better. But the now moment disintegrates that. Even to look at when I started this stream, I had this is just what the fuck happened. It was a result of my internal nature and outside circumstance. We could rewind it 1 billion times, and it would play out the same every time. But I'm going to attempt to use my free will to make the end of this better. And then once it's over, I will look back on it like I had no free will. And with hope, I find it's the short term and the kind of hope where you're relying on it coming through and you're holding on with attachment to the outcome that the hope presents the possibility of. Even the hope that what you have now will continue can be dangerous, whatever it is you take for granted, which you'll realize you were attached to something that you didn't even know you were attached to because you were so basically attached to it. Like we could all suddenly get an intense fucking physical, like medical problem. We could all have our legs broken and we would realize how attached we were to the idea that our legs are not broken. And how much we were relying on that state to continue. So I find if you're someone who experiences depression, especially suicidal states, short-term hope can fucking kill you. But you have to maintain a longer-term hope. I don't remember who I heard talk about it. Someone talked about that being the case with prisoners of war who are there for a long time. The ones who don't survive, they either crack up or they end up like literally not surviving. The prisoners of war are the ones who keep attaching themselves to a short-term hope. We're going to get out next week. This plan's going to work. Or, say there's talks or whatever. President's going to get us home next month. We're going to be home by Thanksgiving. We're going to be home by October. You get attached to that and you hope too much for a short-term one and it doesn't happen, crack. You don't survive. But also if you have no hope at all, you crack and you don't survive. The ones who survive best, from what I've heard, are the prisoners of war who hold no short-term hope, even when it's presented. Like even when the captors come in and say, looks like we're going to make a trade for you next week. You still don't hope for that. But you hope that you will escape one day somehow or be set free, whatever. But letting total control over how far away that is and in what way will happen, like just letting go of control over that. No short-term hope, no specific short-term outcome expected or attached to. Yet, an unwavering faith that you will get out someday, somehow. Some people apply that to things like you're in the real world. It's they hold on to the hope they will get out. When I'm suicidal, I don't even try to hold on to hope that things will work out in this lifetime. I stretch my no short-term hope. Sometimes it draws in a bit and I'll kind of hope for things later in life. Oh, and sometimes it draws in a lot. And I attach to something because it's actually there. And I realize how much I'm counting on it going well. And it fucking gets taken away. But I get hurt by having short hope, especially when it develops without me really realizing it's there. But when things get really rough, I'm very conscientious of not to have any short-term hope. Not to count on this going better next week, even if everyone's circumstance seems to change, so it will be better next week. When I'm suicidal, I can't attach to that. Because then if it goes bad, then I'll get one of those fucking moments where the full-on suicidal takes over for a minute. And I'm too fucking clever at thinking up continual disasters to feel safe attaching hope to anything in this lifetime. Then I guess it comes around to whoever in the Bible said to store up your riches in heaven. I suppose that's where I put my hope. That whatever happens with the rest of this life, whether it gets better one day, like the story of Job, and ends on some happy note, like fuck, who knows? Maybe there's happy days ahead. But what if outside circumstance and inside circumstance both get worse? Bipolar 1 gets worse over your life, typically. I only got fucking 2 good months this year. But even if it's going to be decades from here forth, with a ratio of 10 fucking depressed suicidal months to 2 months of feeling okay. The long-term hope I hold on to is that this is fucking part of something. And that it's worth it eventually. My mind just fucking blanked. I know I was just talking about that long-term, short-term hope concept, but what I was actually saying just all went out of my head. Hey, Interbeing Alchemist. How you doing? Oh, glad you like the beard. Hey, Martin. And Joel. All right, Anne says, so your stepdaughter's 21. Fuck, that's rough. 21's so young. There's not a whole lot of life experience to put a suicidal depression into perspective. I guess on the most basic level, you can just be present with her and you can let it be okay that she's suicidal. it's rough when it's like that line from the Joker movie. The worst thing about having a mental illness is people expect you to behave as if you don't. Like there are a couple people for me that when I collapse and I'm not doing good, like what their basic attitude they fall into is like they get upset that I'm not doing well, and it becomes you need to do better. Be normal. And if I say, look, I'm fucking bipolar, I can't be normal right now, it's like, then pull yourself together and fucking act normal and get through this and this. That is fucking brutal. So if you know someone with a major mental illness or you know someone who's suicidal, don't expect them to act as if they don't. Let it be okay for them to like experience what they're experiencing. And then from there, it kind of depends because there's so many different types of suicidal and different things work at different times. But let the person know you love them, that you're there for them. Let them know that it's okay that they feel that way. And then depending on their reaction, whatever, like the reassurance that people can go through that and survive it. And then if you can get the person to pursue any kind of help. And don't try to push something. It's like if the person's a churchy person, encourage them to talk to their priest, or you know what I mean? But if that's not them, don't fucking encourage that. Encourage them to find somewhere they can talk about it, or to see a therapist, or to participate in the community here, or remind them that there's suicide helplines that are free if they're ever in a real moment of crisis. I haven't used one this year, but I've used those 1-800 fucking suicide or whatever phone lines in the past. Let them know that there's help out there, but also don't pressure them to try to do something they're not ready to do yet. If all they can do is sit on the couch and cry at the moment, let that be enough. Like whoever it was who said they hadn't brushed their teeth in a week, sometimes it gets so overwhelming that you would not believe like it is so fucking hard for me to eat right now. It takes so much effort to get out of bed, to take a shit or to take a shower. If someone needs to shut down, allow them to live almost like if someone gets a flu and you're vomiting and have diarrhea and a fever, we let them just shut down and lie on the couch and watch movies or whatever. Sometimes people have to drop into that and not feel pressure. It's weird though. Also, sometimes someone's been in that level too long and they need a push to get out. That can be dangerous, the pushing. So Carlo asks, how do you spend the day? Are any activities possible at the moment? It depends on the day. Today I got up, fucking forced myself to do the morning routine and take a shower. Checked correspondence and prepared myself to do this, and have been doing this. Yesterday, the weather was actually nice for this time of year. Directly in the sun, it would feel hot. Not super hot, but it would feel hot in the sun. Like, it was hot enough I could go out and take my shirt off. But then the minute a cloud covers the sun, it's cool. It's like the air temperature wasn't that high yesterday. I think it was like 15. But when you were in the direct sun, it was warm. So I spent a lot of yesterday outside. There are 4 or 5 new chipmunks around. One of them I just showed up a couple days ago. The rest seem to have shown up since then. The 4 or 5 new chipmunks that have shown up, seems to me that they must have all been born in the spring. They're all not quite full size. When they fill their cheeks, you can see they're young. As chipmunks, the older they get, the more their cheeks stretch out. They all have the same tail. Not as fluffy, like not as bushy. And there was what I think is a squirrel from this spring that was around today, a red squirrel. Not today, yesterday. Saw Romeo briefly, but one of the new upstarts. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what's going on. But usually Romeo would come in and chase all the new chipmunks the fuck out of there. I only saw him briefly. I'm not sure if the king of the yard has changed. And then Red Sonja was around. That was a lot of the time that I was able to get myself out of mildly suicidal into just extremely depressed. Even then, it's hard. Being friends with rodents is tricky when you have your ups and downs. Chipmunks don't have long lifespans. And even if they don't die, rodents come and go. Groundhogs, squirrels, chipmunks. There's times where that can be incredibly beautiful, all the new ones I meet in a spring or even a moment like that. I found it was outweighed by I found myself yesterday missing specific rodents from previous years that weren't around this year. Be surprised how much personality chipmunks can have. It was very depressing to think that next spring there may not be anyone outside who's used to climbing right into my lap. It was strange, even depressed, like how much the energy of me in the yard that I get along well with chipmunks instantly. That new fellow who seems to try to be taking over the yard, which he's the smallest of all the new ones. It's weird. He seems to be the smallest, yet he's dominating all the other chipmunks. And he even chased fucking the young red squirrel, which I haven't named. I don't know if it's a he or a she. That one chipmunk was even chasing off the red squirrel. Not Red Sonja. She didn't fuck around. When she showed up, she was in charge. But anyway, that new guy hasn't climbed into my hand or lap or anything yet and hasn't eaten out of my hand yet. But instantly he would come right up to me. He'll rub against me. Like I'll feel him rubbing against my back, and he'll go right under sort of my knee. He'll go right under my hand and rub against my hand and has checked out the seeds of my hand. That was just instant. Sometimes it can seem really beautiful how quickly I can make friends with new chipmunks. But yesterday I was mostly just depressed, missing specific ones. Hey, Pat, you and I have not talked like face to face in quite a while. Hope you're doing well, brother. All right, so Pat wrote, it's an illusion that we don't have everything we need. The depression is ours to have when we have it. I'm learning how to be with it, and so far I remain curious as to where I will go with it. That's a great frame. If you can have that, if you can just become curious and interested about your experience, not trying to judge or control, or you can become curious about the phenomenon of depression. If you can become curious even about suicidal states. Fuck, I don't know how to describe how to get there because I've gotten there in the past. I've dealt with suicidal states in the past that way. Actually, I guess I've been doing some because, I've been doing mindful. I've been learning from it. I haven't thought to myself, okay, I'm going to take a curious angle. And it hasn't had that curiosity can be fun. You can be like, oh, I want to explore something. I haven't achieved that, but I have been, curious in the sense of I've been examining what I can learn from this suicidal state. And Pat continues to think that the world isn't experiencing this with us is an illusion too. So it seems helpful to know that we are not alone. Hope means we don't have something we think we need. Everything is perfect. The synchronicity is the proof. The one you experienced the other day with the quote from the TV show you were talking about, that happened in the depression you're experiencing. I feel lost too, naturally. And then Pat says further down, I'm pretty sure my puppy saved my life this year. All right. Congratulations to Pat's puppy. Your dog deserves a treat then. Like a good day at the park when you're feeling up to it, or a new fucking chew toy or something. Like, thank God you had that puppy in your life. If it made that difference. Thomas Welch says there are happy days ahead. You know that because there was happy days before. There will probably be happy days ahead. I've experienced too many things right out of nowhere to take tomorrow for granted. I've been hit by a bus. I've been hit by lightning. I almost drowned once. I am very aware that I can't take tomorrow for granted. So I can't fall into the totality of that. I can say there are probably happy days ahead. It's like, I don't want to talk back against that, but I'll just share like what the fuck happens inside me. So other people who have that experience know they're not alone. The other thing is just there is within depression and suicidal states, they put a filter on reality where happy days seem false. So even you could say that to someone who's suicidal, and well, first of all, it's harder to access your happy memories. It seems to me that the way my brain works is when I'm depressed, I can access depressed memories very easily. When I'm depressed, it's hard for me to remember happy times at all. Like as if with your computer, file not found, file not found. But then even when you find it, it's as if it's corrupted and there's a filter over it where instead of an actual happy memory, it's a memory of the like it becomes the opposite of what Pat was saying, where look at it like all the depression's an illusion. Everything's perfect, dude. Like I've experienced that state where I can see that looking at everything. But there are states where like the fucking wiring of this mushy computer, change it so that all of the happiness was an illusion, so that it's all just so you can be hurt later, or you can even the memory feels like you were pretending to be happy, but that was just in this desperate denial of the existential suffering underneath it. It can seem hollow and fake. It can seem like happiness is not real. Nerdy Bird says, wow, considering how everyone else is doing, I'm absolutely terrible. Yeah, me too. That's all right. We're all whatever the fuck we are. Like the Nick Cave song. This is the moment. This is exactly what she was born to be. This is what she is, and this is what she does. Emily says, we are a social species. We need to be able to talk to others so you know you're not alone. It's also important to be mindful of what you watch or listen to. Excellent points. And Emily continues, and hi and welcome. I'm not sure if we know each other or not. My brain's not working very well. I can't see the icon. I'm not recognizing the little tiny circle as something familiar. Anyway, I found going outside and just going for walks can do wonders on depression. We need sunshine and fresh air. It's just science. We're people, plants. Yeah, absolutely. I would suggest checking out Alan Watts. I love Alan Watts and really listening to what he has to say. I've been forcing myself to listen to 1 hour a day for 4 years. It really changed my outlook. It's a process. Absolutely. First of all, it's always important to be mindful of what you watch, what media you take in. Not even that, like what websites you use, how you let the algorithms affect your mind. Are you choosing what you watch, or are you letting an algorithm choose what you watch? I try to be very careful to choose myself what I want to watch, not to go somewhere and let an algorithm pick what I'm going to see or think about. But it's important to pay attention to how what we do affects us. Is what I'm watching right now making me feel better or worse? And sometimes you'll notice, okay, what I'm watching is making me feel worse because it's bringing this up inside. And sometimes you'll notice, okay, but this is something I need to deal with and work through and feel through. So sometimes you might want to watch a certain TV show or read a certain book. And no, it's not making you feel better, but it's helping you process pain that is in there and needs to be experienced. Then sometimes you'll find something's making you feel bad and not in that kind of way that it's helping you process. It's just making you feel bad. It's you're watching it for some sort of thrill of seeing conflict or whatever the fuck it is. The reason is that it's like really not good for you. Be careful with what you look up on sites where an algorithm chooses what you see next. And if you have some sort of, like Brett and Heather say, like, we need a concept of junk media and junk books and junk movies. Like, we all understand the concept of junk food and good food. When I'm going to look up, I haven't done it in quite a while, but there are times where I want to look up some sort of fucking junk media. I realize that I want to see some conflict, or I want to, and it's not something that I would want the algorithm recommending to me later, though. It's, I guess I'm going to indulge in this for now. And, sometimes it is. I need to work out some really negative emotion. So I'm going to go to this, but this is not something that I want catching the corner of my eye tomorrow on my suggestion page. So I will watch something like that on like an incognito or signed out or whatever. And I'm not talking about porn. I mean, straight up things that other people would think there's no problem with watching, but that I'm aware that this is junk media for me. I'm very careful not to have an algorithm recommend that to me later. And yes, being able to go outside, which is why I could never live in a city again. I need to live out in the country. And when I go outside, I'm outside with nature. Not that I'm so isolated, there aren't farms that I could see from here if there weren't trees in the way. But where I am, all I see are open fields or trees. I spend a lot of time outside and have a relationship with wildlife. It's very, very fucking therapeutic. I spent a lot of this time outside with chipmunks or squirrels in my lap. Or a groundhog earlier in the year. Once her litter were ready to come out of the hole. 2 years now, 2 different groundhogs. I think it's been the daughter of the first one that did it. Move right in under my porch. Well, they live for like a month or 2 in that den while they're nursing. Come out and play every day. But then when the kids are ready to come up out of the holes, like out of the den, the mother moves them. What you said about people being able to talk about it to others so you're not alone, that's why I'm on here today. There have been times since me saying in the last video that I'm going to try to not disappear through this suicidal state. Because I see how many other people are going through it. And it's like a fucking increasing problem in the world right now. Suicide rates are going up. And recognizing that there's something about talking about being suicidal that is different than talking about having been suicidal. And I don't even have the energy to try to explain what the difference is at the moment. But I see the difference based on chat comments under the videos, and correspondence I've had recently. There's a difference. So as much as I've regretted making that commitment, I'm going to try to stick to it. In the past, if I've been suicidal for weeks on end, I've disappeared from the channel during that time. Or just posted, one update towards the beginning or end, whatever. I'm going to try to appear every couple days. Or even just as often as I can right now throughout this suicidal state. Some idiotic, positive part of my brain just said, hey, maybe the reason we feel like upper management and situations are asking us to be really public about this suicidal state is because we're going to move past this shit in the future. If that were true, that would be great. But the depressed parts of me just say, oh, shut the fuck up with that hope shit. But I'm going to try to stick to that. And if I were going to have any hope, I would say, hopefully this suicidal state won't even be that long, so it won't be all that many videos. But I really don't know. It's the combination of internal and external. I have fucking pushed myself hard out of my comfort zone for years. When I look back at the past couple years, and then I think back to the me before I started this channel, I would not have believed that I could have gotten through what happened since taking over the channel. And there have been so many times where I've thought, okay, I'm at my limit. One more thing goes wrong, or sometimes it'd even be something specific I would see coming. Like, fuck, if this disaster actually manifests, I'm not going to be able to do the channel. I'm not going to be able to continue. I'm going to have to shut down to hermit mode. And then that shit happens. But somehow I'm still here doing this. Iron Dagger said Carl Jung has some great shadow self information. Yeah, I haven't read any of Jung's books yet, but I've listened to people discussing them. I learned so much from the Dark Night of the Soul work. Yeah, I've heard discussion of that as opposed to. And further down says, when I need to see some hope for the future, I enjoy getting lost in the Venus Project and what Jacques Fresco? Is that? Yeah, discovered. He's interesting. If you were to put the Venus Project together with like Daniel Schmachtenberger and some of whatever that group, it's not quite the IDW, the IDW adjacent. I don't know what it's being called right now, but that group trying to get us through the next enlightenment, get us through this apocalypse, like Dr. Greg Enriquez and Guy Senstock and Vervaeke and Schmachtenberger and all these people mixing the Venus Project and some other shit. And yeah, you can get to a state of a lot of hope. And I feel like the way I said it there was dismissive. I'm not trying to be dismissive, just for me, the path I'm walking at the moment, I can't have hope for humanity in general. That seems dangerous to me during an apocalypse. I have no idea if we're going to make it through the Enlightenment 2.0 some people are planning, or the Venus Project, or some other thing I've never heard of that is better than all of that. If we're going to take this next step up the Ken Wilber spiral dynamics, if we're going to reach that tipping point where whatever 10% of the population think this new way, and so society shifts to it, whether this is an apocalypse of us moving to a golden age, or this is going to devolve into Mad Max or some sort of catastrophe, it seems impossible to predict right now. So I focus on whichever way it's going. What am I here to do? So say we're midwifing something better. Or say what we're doing here is hospice care. Like, to anyone who thinks of themselves as on any of the various fucking missions from God, light workers or Christians or whatever, any of these people who feel they're here at a time of change and blah, blah, blah. The way I see it is that kind of people could be here for two reasons. It could be to midwife, go through the difficult birth pains and bring about the next stage of societal evolution, spiritual evolution, fucking whatever. Or maybe we're here to comfort a dying world and to sit with it and die with it. Or if not a dying world, because the planet will be here. Humanity. Are we here to give birth to a new kind of humanity, or are we here to be a part of the death of humanity? I don't know. Usually, though, if I look at what I need to do right now, it doesn't change. The things I do choose to do, for me, fit into either. So whether it's part of transitioning to us to a golden age or part of hospice care, trying to make death not so painful, talking to other people who are going through a suicidal shit right now seems like the thing for me to do either way. It seems to be the only thing I could possibly do to help right now. And it seems worth doing either way. Even if this all ends in mushroom clouds and radiation 2 years from now. Okay, so Emily says, you are new and totally understand my potatoes? I'm not understanding that part, but hey, welcome. So how the fuck did you find this if you're totally new? Okay, and Emily continues to say, I've been watching Hoarders just so I don't feel so messed up in the head. Plus, it inspires me to clean. Then I have to turn it off and go back to some old school feel good shows like Quantum Leap. Like, yeah, there you go. Go into something that you know helps you address a specific issue. But then also, usually you have to balance it with something that just makes you feel good about yourself. Like, just some fucking, like the equivalent of sitting down and getting the load off, and something that's soft and comforting. And Emily continues, I feel like the modern society is doing everything they can to program us into isolating ourselves in every way and keeping our frequencies low. We have to fight to keep our vibrations higher. Just so you know, I'm chain smoking alongside you, brother. Just found out my estranged dad died. It's been a surprisingly depressing time for me. So glad that I have tools from Alan Watts to use now. I'm glad you have those tools as well. And I'm glad you found your way here today, however you did. Sorry to hear about your dad, but only from, the perspective of the people it makes feel sad. I don't see death as a bad thing. So when I see a dead animal or hear that a person's died, I don't feel bad for that animal or the person. Unless if the end was really painful. It can be hard to the end, not the moment of death, but the build up to it. But it can be hard on other people. But that's a reasonable reason to feel depressed. Okay, and I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm just going to call you Sko. Call it weird or parasitic, but listening to struggles of others keeps me afloat in these dark moments. Unless they go all bragging about achievements, then it's just guilt. Okay, yeah, I find it depends on because again, you can hear someone talking about their struggle and they're very venomous about it and they're blaming some other, and it's a rally cry, like an incel driving into, try to kill people in public, that kind of thing can be dark. And then you can hear of people going through struggles and it can be inspiring that they're not giving up. Like if you find the kind of seeing someone else go through a struggle makes you feel better about struggling, great. Okay, and Iron Dogger says the Hopi prophecy rock tells us we are the generation to make a choice. Continue the same, create something extraordinary and sustainable. There are so many different, you could get into spiritual traditions, but also you could get into just an evaluation of history like Yuval Harari looks at, or yeah, different religious, but there are so many different things. that all lead to this being an apocalypse, that we're here to make a choice, if there's such a thing as choice. But anyway, that this is a fucking tipping point. Like, obviously, we can't continue the way we are right now. It's the rate of change is increasing. So I don't get too caught up in the details of any one framework, but I do pay attention overall to all the frames that are pointing to that. And I try not to get stressed out or even overly involved in the group decision. Like, if we're going to frame this as a choice at the moment, which way are we going to go? How many of us are going to choose to take the step towards enlightenment, or whatever the fuck you want to call one direction, and how many of us are going to choose to fucking fight over what's crumbling and ruin everything and devolve us into Mad Max? I can't worry about the overall vote. And to me, your vote isn't about what you say. It's what you live. Like, for instance, the way I am expressing my vote that things go towards the better is that I'm not killing myself, is that I'm staying committed and struggling through, and I'm doing everything I can to participate in every way upper management asks me to. I'm trying my best to be the best me I can be, despite all my problems every step of the way, and that is all me actively voting in a way on which way I want this to go. But whether we go up or down, like, collectively, whatever the vote is, it seems to me an apocalypse is a chance to progress yourself spiritually as an individual, regardless of the direction things go. The way to make Jedis is to have a Sith that needs to be opposed. Apocalypses are a good time for people to get sainted, whether the planet is saved or lost. And Iron Dogger continues, you're helping so many people by just speaking your truth. Depressed parts of me want to fucking discount that in the moment, but I'm depressed and not thinking clearly, so I'll take your word on that. I'll let you be the authority there. And Nerdy Bird's answering my early question and thinks that we are midwifing instead of hospice. You could be right. I'm not going to try to guess that. Well, so far I have not encountered a path where that mattered, to be honest. Or sort of like a choice. When it comes down to the hard things that I know I have to do, and if I go to apply that framework, well, what if everything blows up in 2 years? Do I still need to do it? Yes. And what if we are transitioning into an apocalypse and everything's going to be so much better in 10 years? Is this still what I need to do? Yes. So I haven't found that within my spiritual practice or psychological work, I haven't found yet that I need to answer that question. It seems to me that at every point, regardless of whether we're midwifing or hospicing, what I need to do is what I need to do. So I'm not worried about which it is. I can imagine some people need to decide and need to be working towards that. So if you're going to decide, like, thank God you picked the decide that we're midwifing. You pick the other end and you can turn into Panzram or Richard Ramirez or the Unabomber or some combination. And Martin likes that we're the generation to make a choice. And answering my earlier question, Emily says, I have no idea how I found you, but I'm all about going with flow. Yeah. I just turned on YouTube and there you are. Figured it's destiny based on what you're saying. You fit in my algorithm. Cool. Well, I'm glad destiny introduced us. Pleased to meet you. And there's not that much going on our Discord right now or in our community because I have not been keeping up with life well this year. Last summer, the Discord was going much more, but I did put a link to our Discord in the description. And it's been quite some time, but I used to do what we call lunatic patrols. And that would be where I post a Zoom link at a certain time and a bunch of people from the community show up and we watch some shit together and we talk. And yeah, those were called lunatic patrols. I'd like to get them going again at some point. People have expressed that they would find that helpful if I could get them going again. So if you have any interest in being like active with the community other than just catching one live stream, join our Discord, and I post announcements there for when I'm live or if I get doing lunatic patrols again. Also, like, people used to interact more in the message boards or whatever you call them. I'm not like a computer person and I don't really use the Discord, except like I post announcements on the Discord, and Discord's where people can write to me. I don't know how many private sessions I could handle at the moment, but when I'm doing private sessions, people can write to me about them there and they're free. But yeah, if you want to write to me, you can write to Mercury Black on our Discord. But also, if people want to get more active, like I found when I was doing the lunatic patrols, the Discord got more active, and it's not very active right now. But one of the past live streams I did, like just a couple days ago, there was someone new. She went over and joined the Discord and said hi to everyone and didn't get a response other than from me. But a bunch of us are struggling. There's a few of us who are new in the community. So I know it would be better if I got active on the Discord and got more interaction going, but I don't have that in me right now. But I will say the Discord's there. There's a good group of people there. If you guys want to start interacting with each other more, that'd be great. Or if not, if you just want to sign up to the Discord and kind of wait until I'm posting lunatic patrols and things again, or you want to just sign up so you can message me directly, go ahead. So Martin's also voting on that it being a midwifing situation. Anyone who's interested in that, I don't even remember what the fuck we talked about, but it jumped into my head. If you look at the podcast I did with Dr. Greg Henriquez and Guy Senstock, I think it was called something about cosmic jellyfish. I don't really remember what we said, but I think maybe we were talking about that the whole time. Yeah, I did do some podcasts last summer where I talked to other people about the concept of the apocalypse and what they're doing during this time. Emily says, after the live, I'll have to go look at your content to see what I've watched. I'm curious now too. Either way, I feel your pain and dig your vibe. And just, yeah, I understand your potatoes is just my weird, bored Wisconsin mom way of saying I understand what you mean and agree wholeheartedly. I'm weird, that's all. Okay, great. You'll fit in here then. Most people in our community are weird in some way. If not all. I just don't want to say all. But it could be all. There hasn't been that much content recently. Last summer, there were more podcasts and shit. And this channel's weird. If you go way back, the earliest stuff, which is now all labeled legacy video, a different guy started the channel. Andrew started the channel way back, based around Peterson's self-authoring. He ran the channel for 2 years. Then he wanted to move on from it. And he asked me and Ryan Holsapple to take it over together. And I ran the channel with Ryan Holsapple for about 1.5 years. Then it's been about 1 year and something that I've been running the channel alone. It's devolved since then. So there's more different kinds of content if you go further back than just the past 12 months. All right. I have to piss. Do we just wrap this up? There's 13 people here, and it looks like maybe these. I'll be back in a minute if you guys want to wait. If not, if anyone's just going to leave now, God bless. Leave it at that. Anyway, back momentarily. I had remarked in a live stream a while back that when I return from a break, it jumps. The first thing I usually say is I'm back. And that seemed like such a stupid thing to say. That is still what comes into my head. I would have started there by saying I'm back. But once I notice that I say it, it feels stupid. I'm obviously back. All right, so I'd left off at Emily saying maybe we're all depressed because we can feel it deep inside that we're all being disconnected from each other when in reality we're all one. I feel like I've been mourning the 90s way too hardly. How old were you in the 90s? I'm more in the 80s. I was born in 78. But yeah, I agree with Martin. That resonates. Nerdy Bird adds everything is contingent / consequent. Thus, all matters, just maybe not to what is considered you. And Emily continues, as a mom now, I see a whole different world than I grew up. It makes me sad. My kids don't have the same kind of social life I had. And hell yes, I'm totally down to be active. I'm excited to check it out. Okay, cool. All right. And there are some, I mean, I doubt they're the people who are going to be here right now, but I've had comments, kind of even over the past 8 months of some people saying, hey, I want to get the Discord more active. If when you're, yeah. But like Emily's new blood moving in right now. Cade showed up the other day. So if you're anyone who had thought in the past, I wish the Discord was more active, or if you're one of those people who said to me, I would like to help people, what can I do to help? Yeah, there's a couple new people coming in. We're going to be active so people can support each other there. Now, I guess would be a good time if you used to want it to be more active and haven't been checking it out because it's not active. Show up and fucking whatever. If you're struggling, write that you're struggling. If you're doing good, write that you're doing good. If you need to unburden yourself and not feel alone, put that out there. Or if you're, because I've had people tell me in the past, hey, I'm doing better now and I would like to help other people. Show up and say, hey, I'm doing pretty well right now. Does anyone want to talk or read through what's being put up and respond to it? But yeah, I sometimes feel the same way about my kids, I think. Like, fuck. I grew up in the 80s and I was like the shit Jonathan Haidt talks about, how kids used to go out and were just out and unsupervised. I had that youth. I remember as like a little kid just being allowed to go out and play in the neighborhood. I just knew I had to be home by the time the street lights turned on. And the world was so different before the internet. When I was 10 and I was just riding a bike down a back road with my fishing pole to go out to some little fucking pond or lake alone. Like nobody around. Nobody even knew exactly where I was. No thought of reaching people the way we can reach them with cell phones. Back in the day when you had your friends' phone numbers memorized and it was like house phones. And if you called and said, hey, so and so there, and the answer was, they're away, they'll be back Monday, you had to wait till Monday. You didn't expect that you should be able to text them or reach them on some website. Hey, look at that. And I think Nerdy Bird had written that before I even started saying that shit. But Caden and I exchanged messages earlier today. Awesome. I genuinely feel a little bit of joy at that. It's mixed in with a whole lot of depression, but there's a little spark of joy in, okay, awesome. Because it's weird. A lot of fucking people feel lonely right now. Not believe how many people are out there that feel lonely. And that seems like it should be a self-fixing problem. But there's something about the current situation that makes it hard for lonely people to group up, to connect. But lonely people, maybe that's one of the things like I can do here is bring some of those lonely people together, because it helps if you have something in common. Like, if you ever go to a fucking Comic-Con or any kind of those conventions, whether it's a Star Trek convention or a horror convention, when you go to that kind of shit, you'll find these lonely people who have such a great time and make friends there. But it's because everybody has an excuse to be friendly with each other. I think we feel like we need that now. Like, you don't just strike up a conversation at bus stops. That's weird. But when you've got something in common, whether I even noticed it like the one time I saw Peterson live once. And I noticed it before the event and after the event. People love to come up and introduce themselves to each other. And at events like that, people will just let other people write in. Like, whether it's the convention type thing or showing up to see a speaker, or you see it at fucking concerts. It's so easy to talk to someone at a Motorhead concert because you're all there to see Motorhead. You feel like you have there's an aspect of tribe right up front. We're all Motorhead fans here, or we're all Jordan Peterson fans here, or we're all into horror movies, or comic books, or science fiction. So the one advantage, like, of this chat space and our Discord is it should be easy for you to be friendly with each other. If someone's on our Discord, it means they like me. So you've got that in common. And I work like a filter. It seems a lot of the people in the community would get along very well, like, even without the me in common thing, if they were to just meet each other. And there are very, very, very fucking different people in the community. But there's certain kinds. Like, there's some people who are very fucking insane, like I am. But then there's some people who are not. Like, they're just self-optimizers. There's more, but I'm not going to try to start describing the various categories. But I know there's a few different kinds. Emily says, that sounds awesome. Thank you and keep it up. Yep, definitely met for a reason. Did we just become best friends? Sure, I'll be best friends with you. Seems to me like fucking everything happens for a reason, and that can be so overwhelming and burdensome when I'm suicidal. But when I'm not, it seems glorious. I'm so fucking worn out, though. Boy, whoever's sticking around has a good attention span. A lot of people have had their attention spans ruined by algorithms and notifications hijacking your dopamine hits from and short form content like memes and GIFs or GIFs or whatever, where you don't even want to set up. You just want to go from active punchline to punchline. You just make a lot of people's attention spans have been destroyed. I've noticed mine has even been affected, and I've heard Sam Harris talk about his has been affected too. Since I've become active with sorting myself out, which has plugged me more into the algorithms. And Sam Harris says recently he's noticed I have more trouble like sitting down and reading a big fucking book. I'm less inclined to do that. But anyway, you guys must have decent fucking attention spans. The way not only you follow through my long rants, but then the extended silences and me drinking water or just my brain short circuiting. Good for you. Yeah, and like this isn't content that's constantly providing dopamine kicks. And Nerdy Bird says some people contributing here are weird in many ways. Yes, some of us are like infinitely fucking weird. And Martin says being considered weird nowadays is a healthy sign. Yeah, who's the quote? I'm forgetting the name of the dude who said, it is no sign of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. And yeah, there's something to that. Although some people take that too far, it's also no fucking sign of health to be maladjusted to a profoundly sick society. You could just be profoundly sick in a very different way. T from you says, people used to call me weird when I was young, and I liked that. Now I just see myself as a ridiculous disaster. Yeah, I can understand that swing. There's times I enjoy being weird, and there's times where I can't stand being weird. All right, so Emily, we're pretty close to the same age. I'm 43, so I'm older, but close enough that we both grew up somewhere, yeah, significantly pre internet. You walked to kindergarten by yourself 4 blocks away, just had to be home in time for dinner. And when it gets dark, and even then, we could still play hide and seek on the block. Yeah, that used to be really fucking normal. Nerdy Bird says commonality is important, but I have Asperger's, so yeah, but we have in common that we have all kinds of weird things about us. And you have the Asperger's in common with some other people in the community. So at least you know you're not alone in that. Emily says, I miss going to concerts for sure. And now it's like the only way to have random conversations with strangers is if you're outside smoking. And even then, everyone is on their phone, distracted. They're not living in the present moment. I keep finding it disrespectful and insulting at a deep level. And here I am on my phone being a cyborg. Yeah, and now I very much dropped out of society 10 years ago. Like I lived very much as a hermit with no phone, no internet, no car, just having supplies dropped off and spending 99% of my time alone. Like I spent 2 years like that and then got phone and internet, but still. So I don't know what's going on with the world nowadays, but from what I've heard and the little bit I've seen, like for instance, when I went to college, everyone fucking like when you met with other people or you went out drinking or you just went to the study hall or were hanging outside smoking a joint or whatever, it's like people just talk to each other still then. But apparently now, like people all just sit down and pull out their phones. Or I've heard people talk about their college experience being like, hey, so they meet this group of people who say, oh, we're all meeting at the coffee house at this time. Then they say they get there and sit down, and everyone is just looking at their phones, and they're even like texting each other and sending each other memes instead of looking each other in the eyes. That's fucking weird. As a kid, I used to go to concerts all the time. Well, I played in bands. I'd hang out with like the fucking street kids and homeless people. You just go stay at a squat or a youth shelter or hitchhike out to Montreal and just sleep in a park. Like people would just hang out all day, but like you looked each other in the face. You talked about things. Or even often you were just present in the moment with each other. I can't imagine growing up with everyone staring at their cell phones and texting each other when they're sitting at the same table. Carlos says, after the lockdown, I can't stand any small talk. I can't do it anymore. Yeah, I don't like small talk either. It's weird about doing this fucking channel. Like whether it's private sessions or the podcasts and shit. It's just bizarre how many hours and hours and hours of conversation I've had over the past 2.5 years or whatever. And none of it is small talk. People just dive in right away with me to either really deep psychological concepts or spiritual things, or dive really deep, just start opening up about what's actually troubling them the most. Or the number of times I've in private sessions heard people say, I've never told anyone this before. And then they proceed to discuss it with me. And then the relief they feel afterwards of having told one person about it. I wonder how many people are alive right now who never had a conversation like that. Oh, I'm glad you found it helpful, Marvin, hearing me talk about all this. Okay, Martin also struggles to read books now. And I know you, Martin, you're not one of those people that you'd expect to have a damaged attention span. Maybe part of it's the collective unconscious. Maybe that's part of the energy right now. Oh, the one book that I would recommend to anyone who's suicidal. And it's huge. Also, there were times in the past, like one of the ways I've gone through 2 depressions that were 2 years long, with like a year plus of suicidal state. There were times where what I would do would be read morning till night, basically. Like I would get, and it's weird to be so fucking depressed in the middle of summer. But my first summer in isolation, because when I first went into the total isolation, it was during a depression. And so I had a summer where I had no internet, I had no phone, I had no car. I hadn't told my friends where I was moving when I moved out into the middle of nowhere. And it's like I had just gone through a complete psychotic break, experienced the end of the world. I saw the sun turn to the moon, and I was running around naked and bloody on the verge of starving to death, and chained into a mental institution, like against my will, experiencing them as being sent by the devil to kill me. and all kinds of other total psychotic break. The way I got through that summer was a lot of reading. The morning would just be up, like force yourself out of bed, grab a coffee straight outside with a coffee and a book, and just sit down and open it up and start reading it. I would say like 80% of my waking hours at one point was just reading fiction and just trying to numb existence, like trying to forget myself and just experience the book. I don't know why I started rambling about that. My brain feels so fucking beaten up. From dealing with these extreme suicidal states. It feels inside like I've been fighting tigers and dragons and demons. I feel all fucking cut up and sore inside. And it expresses physically. I have had such a headache for the past few days. My muscles just ache. And I don't know how much of that is from me actually like tensing up at times, because I do. I feel bruised physically. And Elson says, "Oh man, tell me about it. I stopped all the phone and computer notifications by 60 to 70% compared to my brother, so it's visible, man. It's almost a high into itself." Hi, Elson. You new here? Or am I just, because I'm not thinking well right now. But anyway, new or not, yeah, like one thing is I don't fucking let the internet into my cell phone at all. So I don't get notifications from anything. I don't get emails on my cell phone. I don't anything. My cell phone is a phone and I get texts. That's it. But then with other things, I don't get like if I'm on a website doing one thing, I don't get notifications from other websites unless I've got them open. I have my shit set up that way. And it's really, I don't have the energy to go into any of the reasons why, but I'll just say the people who designed all the algorithms and the platforms and the people who design the fucking cell phones and shit, they live the way I do. They don't let the internet in their phone. They don't let their children use these platforms. They don't let themselves or their children be affected by the algorithms that they're profiting off of. So I don't understand the phenomenon of being addicted to your phone at all. I understand the phenomenon of getting dopamine kicks off of notifications when I'm online, but that I've protected myself from that being in my phone. That's a dangerous thing to put into something that you're going to carry around with you. Also, I spend a significant amount of time throughout the summer outside without my cell phone with me. Like, there's times where I have my cell phone with me because I'm expecting someone specific is going to get back to me in a while. I'll take my phone with me. But unless there's that, in the summer, I spend a significant amount of time with my computer off, my cell phone inside, and I am outside, just away from all of the notifications. But yeah, I don't let that shit into my phone, and I don't let notifications bleed from one website to another. And I'm very careful about, I think I might have said earlier that I don't just scroll and let an algorithm pick what I'm watching. Sometimes I do with the platform we're all watching right now, but it's because I tailor, like I'm careful about what I watch and I'm careful about what the algorithm recommends to me here. So it doesn't recommend to me the kind of shit that I will watch that isn't good for me. It recommends the kind of shit that I'm fine with. And so sometimes I'll be like, okay, I want to watch some sort of podcast. I don't know exactly what. I'll scroll for a minute, just the homepage, because it's set up so it recommends podcasts to me. Or the same thing with music. Okay, I don't know exactly what. If I feel like listening to some old punk, I'm going to look at, and I'll let the algorithm lead me a bit that way. But I'm careful about that. I try for that not to be too much of what I consume. I try to decide before I go to any website at all, what is it I want to be taking in right now? And then I search out that specifically instead of scrolling some form of suggestion. And when I do scroll suggestions, it's on a platform where I'm very careful about how the algorithm knows me there. Yeah, I understand that shit about feeling people's feelings, Emily. Yeah, I think the fact that you have that and that you kind of understand how to listen is why people open up to you. Nobody listens anymore, and if they do, they just don't care. Or people listen just to disagree. Like they're disagreeing while they listen. They're listening just so they can counter that and then say why, and then they want to negate that. Like, no. Forget your experience. Here's how I experience the world. I want you to see the world the way I see it, where our interaction becomes a debate as opposed to a dialogue. And I think a lot of the social media interaction that occurs boils down to that. Someone sees an opinion that is the opposite of how they feel on something, and so they click on that post of whatever kind on whatever site with right from the outset. They're reading it with confirmation bias, like Jonathan Haidt likes to talk about, and they're just there to present, no, that's wrong. Here's the way you should be looking at things. That does not make people feel heard. I find treating people like a fictional novel instead of treating people like a test. Like some people treat other people like it's a test or a textbook. What are the answers you have inside? No, that's wrong. And they want to fact check somebody like they're a textbook. But you don't start reading Lord of the Rings and think like, oh, hobbits aren't real and blah, blah, blah. You just want to understand this. If you treat people like a fictional novel, where you listen for the sake of understanding and trying to experience what they're experiencing, or trying to understand somewhat what they're experiencing, and not arguing with it like it's a textbook that's wrong, but treating it like a story, like a novel, then people open up much more. They actually feel heard. And yes, everyone you talk to is wrong and they're an idiot, but so am I and so are you. We're all fucking wrong. It's really easy to see the faults in others or see where someone else is living an illusion, but we're all trapped in our own reality tunnels and our own illusions. It's like a bunch of 3-year-olds with some of us being, but I'm 3 and 9 months, and everyone like, oh, look how grown up that fucking 3-year-old is. We're all fucking idiots. We're all wrong. We're all stuck in our own hallucinations. We could be a little bit more compassionate with each other about that. And we could stop thinking, like, how many times in your life have you thought you knew something absolutely, and then you get a bit older and you fucking realize it was wrong? But then you're so fucking sure that you see things right now. It's like I went through so much of that, especially before I went insane. I would just keep getting stuck in a new reality tunnel of, oh, the old reality tunnel is wrong, but I found the right one. Like, how many times do we have to do that before we're going to realize, like, oh, fuck, I am definitely certain of things that I shouldn't be certain of, and I don't know which things it is. Because when I go back 10 years, I didn't realize how wrong this and this and this were. Carlo and Emily, a lot of people in this community are the kinds, that's one of the subsets of this community, is people who end up being the amateur therapist of their family or friend group. Okay, Nelson, I think you're saying you're new here. That's weird. These past couple streams seem to have brought a bunch of new people in. How'd you find this? Oh, this is so fucking surreal. I'm overwhelmed with conflicting emotions, and so I'm just going to try to be curious about it. Fuck, this is weird. I would not have believed years ago, if you'd taken me 3+ years back when I was in any kind of comparable state to how I've been the past couple days. If you were going to say to me, 2021 on October 2nd at 4:31 p.m., you're going to be in a state similar to what you're in now. You're going to be on YouTube streaming live, talking about it. People around the world having this kind of positive interaction in the chat. I would not have believed it. Or, depending what authority it came from, I would have had that emotional feeling of, I can't believe that. Even if I recognize, because sometimes angels tell me shit that seems unbelievable and I've learned to believe it. But it still feels unbelievable. Anyway, what the fuck am I rambling about? Okay, Yes I Am was the last thing I read. Emily says, yep, I have to remind myself to stop scowling and furrowing my eyebrows. It's always a weird feeling of relaxing your face. But Will, in realizing how stressed out and wound up you were, we all need to. Yeah, and as I read that, I've got all that tension, not even just to my face, throughout my body. So Emily says one of the ways she manages is setting rules for herself. Is I can't watch garbage on my phone. I don't play video games, and I don't let the mainstream media tell me what to do as much as possible. If I'm on YouTube, it's better to myself, be it with music, Alan Watts, history, or whatever I specifically want. I try to avoid the algorithm too, but something about this being live suggested caught my eyes. I'm glad we could have this time. Yeah, I'm glad that the synchronicity and shit brought you here too. The algorithm here, if you're careful with it, can really help you. Like if you're careful to log out before watching any junk at all, and if you make it just like for instance, you're interested into the IDW, podcasts, and if you don't give it any clicks on anything outside the reality tunnels you want, the suggested videos can be useful, especially if you're like, okay, I know I need a good long form podcast right now. And, that's one of the things you watch on a regular basis. The algorithm presents a bunch to you, and it can get good at picking out what you want. And the suggestions can actually become healthy, but only if you're operating on a very healthy diet with that algorithm. I imagine it's the same even, grocery stores that give you customized coupons. If you go in there and you're trying to eat healthy, but you occasionally splurge on junk food, it will start, trying to get more money out of you by suggesting junk food to you, and possibly even it's smart enough to notice signs of depression and to send you coupons for junk food then. But if you're very careful that you only buy the fucking healthy foods that you want to be buying through that algorithm, then you might find that it starts recommending other entirely healthy foods that you hadn't considered, or it starts giving you the coupons on fucking fresh organic vegetables. The algorithm here on YouTube can be very beneficial if you operate on a strict diet with it. If you veer outside of that, it can get dangerous. And yeah, Nerdy Bird, I know your circumstance is rather peculiar. And sorry, I'm not responding to everything or reading it right anymore. My brain's too worn out. I'm going to just kind of respond to what I respond to. And I might wrap it up soon. All right, Elson says, I'm sorry to see you like this, man. I subscribed to you when I saw your content about Jordan. Appreciate you being out here and talking. I just wanted to say I'm in a completely different position now than I was before coming up to Jordan's content. Jordan helped me get on my own 2 feet. Once I did that, I was grateful and am, but I'm on my own path. I am on a trail that seems promising. If I get there and find something worthwhile, I promise to come and tell you about it. Excellent. I'm really glad to hear that things are going well for you. And I would like to get back to doing conversations with people from the community, because that used to go really well. The talks I did with James or Nolan or Rob. Yeah, things keep going well, Elson, especially because of the way this channel's tied to Jordan Peterson. If you do want to come back in the future and you want to have a conversation that we record it, where you to tell us the things that helped you, what was it that made a difference for you? How did? Because people don't want to hear what you read and just understand. Like, you ever have a conversation with a college student, like then they're talking about what they're learning in class? That is not as interesting as, okay, I got exposed to all this stuff, and here's a personal story that only I could tell. It's like, here's what happened to me. Here's how I interacted with these ideas, and here's how it actually played out. And here's what was surprising about following this path. And here's what was helpful, and here's what was difficult. People connect much, much more to that kind of information than, hey, I've just studied, this model of therapy, and I can tell you this giant list of things I understand intellectually. So yeah, if you can come back with a story in the future, a personal story, and you want to share it, and yeah, like, I'm not going to correct you that, no, that's not the way your story is. I'm going to try to be present and open and just hear what you've experienced. Yeah, I would like in the future to have more conversations like that with people. Whether you're one of these self-optimizers or whether you're like me and you're one of these total fucking lunatics that struggles just to survive. It's helpful when we share these stories, especially on subjects that people don't usually talk about. Because people don't usually talk about them, and a bunch of people feel like they're going through it alone. Yeah. Martin agrees with me. It's great to hear, Elson. Elson says, I say this from the bottom of my heart to everyone here. Thank you very much. And everyone here, it is amazing the quality of comments I get and the quality of the audience here. Like, the metaphor that comes to mind is I've heard, because now that Jordan Peterson's been brought up, making more things from him come to mind. I remember him saying how well his biblical lectures went and how if you thought about it ahead of time as a business plan, though, and said, okay, here's my plan. I'm going to rent out this theater and I'm going to give a lecture about the Bible. You wouldn't think anyone would show up. And he was all amazed at how many people showed up. But if someone who is suicidal said to you, hey, I'm thinking of streaming myself on YouTube while I'm completely suicidal to try to help some people out there, I think it would be very reasonable to worry about that plan and to say, hey, I don't know if it's a good idea for you to go on a public platform like that has so much trolling and, open up about that. It would not, I don't think it would be reasonable to say to a person who said that, yeah, that's a great idea. I expect you'll get dozens of people that show up and share their stories and are supportive and compassionate, or, who are going to be helped by it and are going to feel gratitude. And don't worry, nobody's going to, not that, I think I had one comment ago from a troll. I forget specifically what it was, but you're going to have next to no trolls at all come in and make fun of you. You can just cry like a pathetic baby all you want. And people will be like, oh, that's really courageous that you're doing that. It wouldn't seem reasonable at all to tell someone that. But somehow that's what shows up in the chat here. I find that a very amazing little miracle. So thank you, to each of the individuals who participates. As opposed to thinking thanks for the number of people watching or the number of thumbs up or the thanks to each individual for the quality of self that you bring to this. And not that I'm delusional that this is like a company of saints who treats the whole world like this. We're all different people at different times and in different situations. But I'm surprised to see I've heard various celebrities say, it comes to mind, that the result of what they, whatever it is they're famous for, whether it's like Peterson said something similar, John Kerry, I've heard a bunch. I'm not even going to bother listing how many different famous people said it slightly differently. But that because of the way people know them, or because of what they put out into the world, people bring their best selves to them. I'm aware that there will be people who will show up here with this infinite compassion for me, and it doesn't mean that they haven't, presented a lesser self to someone else. It's a combination of you being good people and you bringing the better parts of yourselves here. But thank you for that. Okay, cool. So Elson's going to return with a personal story in the future. And we'll record a podcast. And if it turns out all right, we'll put it up. Also, if anyone's thinking in the future of having a discussion with me as in a possible podcast, we don't do it with I'm not putting it up either way. And things can be edited out. There's no pressure until after it's done to decide whether it goes up or not. Duncan Trussell's interesting, Emily. I haven't listened to him much. I've listened to him a couple times, and I don't think I've heard him talk about his depression. I've tended to listen to Duncan Trussell talk about magic with various people, are the ones I've picked out. I don't think I've heard him talk about depression, or if I had, I'd forgotten. That would be an interesting thing. You're saying Kevin Smith? Is he also? Yeah, I like a lot of Kevin Smith's work. I have not heard him talk about depression either. Yeah, I know who Kevin Smith is. I'd heard him talk about his heart surgery or whatever, and talking about his mom's near-death experience on Rogan. That was interesting. Okay, Carlos says, as funny as it might sound, I'm enjoying this stream a lot. Can't believe I've been here for more than 2 hours. Holy fuck, we've been over 2 hours, and to you, it has been fun, and it's felt like 30 minutes. Excellent. I'm a little bewildered at that. I don't know how you could have found that fun, and the kind of fun where time flies, but I'm glad to hear it. Hey, Becker. Lots of love back to you in Scotland. So you're thanking me for touching the subject. You going through it right now? Are you one of the ones tuning in because you're also feeling suicidal? And let's see. And yeah, I'm glad Emily's getting along well with people here. Keep it up on the Discord. But Vakir says, I've tried to commit suicide in my teens twice. Shit. How you doing with it recently? So are you just feeling like the love and compassion because you understand from the past, or are you depressed or even suicidal at the moment? I actually have never made the actual attempt. I've gone so far as like planning it and delaying it in the past. Or I've had lengthy periods of suicidal where I am constantly fantasizing about it. I allow myself to live out the fantasy in my head while saying I can't actually do it. But I would even make plans I knew I couldn't follow through on. But I've never actually made the attempt. I've never actually tied the rope or gone and got the gun or any of that shit. And I don't have any scars to cover up. But I've had lots of intense suicidal moments where it's like it's the hardest fucking thing not to do it. It's like a struggle to keep from doing it. It feels like if I were to relax at all, I would get up and go do it. It's like imagine putting your hand on a hot stove. It's like it takes effort to keep it there. To not move takes effort. If you let it slip, you're going to pull your hand away automatically. I've gone through way too many fucking hours of experiencing that where it feels like I'm on a hot stove. And it is so hard not to pull myself out of the body. But I haven't made the actual attempt. Fuck, I've talked to some people who've made so many. One person in particular. Mind-blowing how many times that person has been in the hospital half dead after an attempt. Like, fucking in multiple ways. I won't get, graphic. But, ending up at the hospital getting the stomach pumped or getting stitches or fucking pulled out of a river and taken to the hospital half dead. Fuck, some of us out there just keep trying and experience themselves like the cat that just keeps coming back and won't stay away. That's heartbreaking. And I haven't talked to that person in a long time. It's not someone from the community. It's been a long time since I've heard from that person. But that was a natural, had drifted, didn't. Last I talked to them, they were all right. Okay, and Emily says we all need to check out Emo Kev. Speaking of Kevin Smith, I watched the 5 episodes of Masters of the Universe he did last night. So it's a synchronicity. I had not watched anything by Kevin Smith in quite a while. I was super into his movies back like when he only had 2 out so far. I was really into his shit. And I'm a huge fucking 80s toy nerd. I've got a huge collection of Masters of the Universe. I had been looking forward to, like, way back, that Kevin Smith was going to take up Masters of the Universe. And then I heard all the controversy over it being shitty. And I had mixed feelings watching those episodes. It is not when I got excited that Kevin Smith was taking up Masters of the Universe, it is not what I'd hoped. Then again, I was fucking depressed and suicidal when I watched it. So he can't have done that bad a job. Because I was not an easy audience last night. Well, on the one hand, Vancouver, it's nice that you got rescued twice, and it's nice, like, there's a niceness to that understanding and to be able to connect with each other in that way. And there's also a fuck it sucks that another person's experienced that. Okay, Nelson says, I'm laughing, man. Yes, thank you to each individual person, individual human with eyes to look back at you. Yeah, amen to that. And much love back to you, Koi in a cup. So why didn't you tell your sister if she's depressed and suicidal? Becker. And Emily says, I thank you for being strong and brave enough to even come do this video at all right now. I'm glad we met. This is definitely meant to be. Yeah, I agree it was meant to be. I'm glad I did it too. I don't feel great about this kind of series I'm doing at the moment. Which, if you look at the thumbnail for my last video, it was an attempt at gallows humor about this pathetic aspect of it. I posted a picture from the 1943 Batman movie serial. It's Batman tied to a chair, all fucking defeated in black and white, and I wrote underneath, will our pathetic suicidal hero survive? Tune in next time. Because the thought of making this commitment to ride out this suicidal stretch, however long it's going to end up being. If I could have hope, I'd say hopefully this is the last in the series. But I don't think it's wise to hope for that right now. Anyway. Feels like just the most pathetic version of those old movie serials where each episode's going to end with the hero in trouble. Because, like, suicidal depression isn't a fucking joke. More and more people are killing themselves from it. This is deadly. And it feels like I'm ending every one at the moment on this cliffhanger of, will he survive? Tune in next time. You got some hero in a shitty costume hanging off a cliff. or with a gun pointed at his head. I don't love the idea of being a fucking poster boy for suicidal depression. The idea was that this might help people. And it seems to be. Coy says, we're all strangers in a strange world, but we're all familiar in spirit. May your light shine eternally. Thank you. Okay, yeah. Elson also asked Vecur how they're doing now, and Vecur does say, I'm good. He's 13 and 15 and got saved twice. But Vecur's been suicidal, even many attempts, and they're here now and doing good. So that's possible for all of us. Okay, sorry I'm not responding to everything because you wrote good shit there, Emily. It affected me, but my ability to keep talking is wearing out. Yeah, I do want to read what Vecur just wrote out loud. I don't have the energy to go more in depth. Like, I've got the thoughts to go more in depth on what Vecur is saying, but I'm running out of energy, so I'm just going to read it and say that I agree. But for some strange reason, I had something telling me, like, my life is better than whomever harmed me so badly. Yeah. Sometimes getting to the place of forgiveness involves realizing that. What would you rather be? The person who suffered that injury or the person who goes around doing that to people? It seems to me that when I analyze it, I can't go into the whys of it. It's too complicated for my depressed brain right now. I always come to, I would rather be the one who's the victim of that crime or that sin or whatever than the one perpetrating it. The immediate punishment for sin is you are now a being that has done that. And I would not rather be the perpetrator. Like, obviously, the weak damage part of me doesn't want any more fucking damage being done by anyone to anyone. So, like, can't we all just start being nice to each other? But if there's going to be injustice, I'd rather be the one suffering from it than the one inflicting it on others. Carlos says this small community is amazing. It's healing to read the comments and listen to Mercury. Really enjoying this. That's fucking great. I hope that ripples out into the world. Like, I hope the positive feeling you're feeling like sticks with you and makes you more positive in your next interactions with people. And I hope that that feels good to them and gets paid forward. Yeah, Vecure, I know you've been around quite a while. It's been 2 years. Okay, so that's why you didn't tell her. Yeah, I think it's about time to wrap up. I'm getting too worn out to respond. I really appreciate that, Emily. Yeah, to all the shit that Emily and Vicar just wrote that I don't feel up to responding to, I'll just say thank you. Yeah, so the newest comment is thank you all here. Thank you. I'm going to end on that note. Thanks to everyone here for being so kind. Thanks for bringing these parts of yourself. Yeah. And so I'm still feeling like I'm holding back from expressing. I'm still feeling mildly suicidal, is the end of this update. But I'm committed to sticking it out. So, yeah, I've got a deadly threat in front of me and play the dramatic music. And will he survive? And my commitment is, I guess I'm going to, and I will show up again. I'll try to within a couple days to let everyone know. If you're struggling with this, keep sticking it out. If you can't look any further ahead than 5 minutes, just survive the next 5 minutes. And keep doing that until you see the next update. God bless. Lunatic love to all.